I am so excited to welcome Reyna to the podcast today. She is a dear friend of mine, my EO forum mate, and just such an inspiration to me. I was actually just sharing with her this weekend how she is like that perfect example of like soft and strong and embodies the feminine energy, yet is so fierce. And I think she's just such an inspiration to women in general, definitely women in entrepreneurship. Her story is amazing. She started from just like the bottom, literally, like with all the challenges that life can throw at you. Yet she managed to not just survive that, but thrive in spite of everything that's life thrown in her way. And so thank you, Reyna, for making time to connect and share your story because I think everyone needs to hear it. And I know you're writing a book, so I'm so excited to see that one and read that when it comes out. But I would love for you to just kind of start, I guess, where you're comfortable starting, but like on your entrepreneur journey, like what led you to become an entrepreneur, and, you know, kind of what inspired that? And what was your first business venture?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you, Cathey, for having me. It's always so good to see you and connect with you and pick up every time where we left off. So thanks for having me. Just starting on my entrepreneurial journey, I guess I would say, gosh, it probably started probably young. I guess the first time that I fell in love with business, I was 12 years old. And my mother was a businesswoman. And at 12, I had a little bit, we'll call it a colorful, eventful childhood, which, I talk a lot about in my book and speaks to that really shaped who I am today and gave me the resilience and grit and perseverance that serves me very well in business today. But yeah, at 12 years old, my childhood was very colorful. And I remember thinking, gosh, if I could just figure out how to make money on my own, then as things are happening around me, I could probably figure out how to take care of myself, is what I thought. And so at 12, I started breeding dogs. I'm 12, and so I saw 101 Dalmatians, love the cartoon. I go and ask my mom if she could buy me a dog and then convince her if she could buy me another one. And before you know it, I had a breeding business. And so, I'd sell the dogs for $300 to $500 each, depending on if, what color, the quality of their spots and the colors and the eyes and whatnot. I became friends with the breeder that I bought my dogs from and started reverse engineering his business. And it was definitely his full-time gig, full commercial breeder. And then I'm 12 years old and I'm never without $1,000 or $2,000 in my pocket. And so, so I loved that. I loved always having cash on me. I loved being able to, if I wanted to buy something, I could buy it. I did that for a couple of years. And then I remember seeing an ad in a paper about a vending route business. So I saved enough money to buy a vending route business. I remember I bought like 12 bubble gum machines, and then it came with 2 free. So then, the vending route business. So then I purchased, 12 bubble gum machines, and I'm 14 years old, and I, went and negotiated in the businesses if I could place these machines there, and then I started a vending route business, and I did that for about a year. I didn't like that as much because I'm 14. And for this business, I required to go and refill and get out the money. And so I needed someone to drive me around. Although I was driving at that time without a license, it just put me at risk. It was a liability business at this point. The breeding business I could do at home. I didn't have to rely on anyone to complete my business. This business I did. And so I didn't like that part about it. It also felt like more work to me to go out and negotiate the contracts, go out and refill and resupplement the machines, and then come back home versus being at home. And it was like a stay-at-home business with a breeding business. So I did that. At 16, my mother saw the entrepreneurial spirit in me, and she invested in purchasing me a salon when I was 16. And there's a story that will come out in my book to give the backdrop of that. But basically, she was going to be going away, as she said, and she was going away to prison at this time. And she was running an organized white collar crime business and doing well, but she got in trouble and she needed to go away. And I was 16, and so she saw this entrepreneur spirit in me, and she purchased me an existing salon. And I remember it clearly. She sat me down and had a conversation with me. And she said, I was sentenced and I need to go away for about a year and a half. And I bought this business for you. And you have about 90-day runway to pay all of the bills and figure out this business and make it profitable. And so 90 days was like, I'm a senior in high school. I'm actually going to school for cosmetology after school. Now I have 90 days to figure out this business. It was about 15 employees, anywhere from like 22 to 32-year-old employees. And in walks the 16-year-old new owner. You can imagine, right? Business, culture, morale, emotional intelligence, obviously all of the business things that we need to learn along the way on training wheels, going downhill, no breaks. But all of those things shaped me, and it was a great experience. So I ended up doing that business for about 6 years, learned a ton, and eventually sold that business for a profit. Gave my mother, her money back, her capital seed money, with a little bit of interest. And then I decided I'm going to go to school full time. I think I need some education behind me and kind of learn a little bit more. I was definitely in learning mode. Got my bachelor's degree in communications. And then found myself back into the beauty business again. I had gotten married, and we were already established in Utah, and there was no option of moving. And when I graduated, I thought I wanted to go to law school. Well, I didn't get into my first choice law school, which the school was about 30 minutes away from me, and already being established with my husband at the time. Moving wasn't an option. So I thought, well, what am I going to do for a year? Meanwhile, I reapply next year to law school. I thought, well, I'll go back into the beauty business. And this time I opened up a lash salon, a niche salon, just focused specifically on lashes. And I had fun. I loved the business again. And I loved the game of business. I loved lashes. And this time things took off a lot faster for me. The business was fun. I was having fun. I was learning. I was growing. I got back a little bit more of, my financial independence again. I was just having so much fun. And so a year came around to reapply to law school. And I thought, I'm riding this business wave and I'm having fun and I want to keep riding it. Law school will always be there. I'll reapply some other time. And so I stood in business, and that was 2007. So I've been in the lash salon business now since 2007. I had one brand in Utah. Did that for about 5 years, and then unfortunately filed for divorce and moved to Vegas and started a new brand. And so came to Vegas with $50,000 seed money, with a 2-year-old, recently divorced and pregnant, 3 months pregnant, and started a new lash brand. And that was Cherry Lash. And that was 14 years ago. And in our first year, we made it to $1 million, revenue to $1 million in lashes in our first year. So not easy. A lot of hard work, a lot of ups and downs throughout the way. But I credit my colorful, eventful childhood to really pushing me into business, because I realized pretty quickly that I could have a lot more control over my life if I was in business. I remember a time when I was 19, I was approached with, I was on vacation. We were on vacation, family vacation in Mexico. And I was approached by a talent agent in Mexico. And they offered me, a modeling gig. And and it sounded fun. And I was 19 and I was already doing the salon. But I thought, oh, this sounds fun. And, it would be kind of lighter work. And I thought I could do it simultaneously with the salon. So I got a place in Mexico. I started spending some time there. I would do auditions, and all of that was fun. And then I got my dream job offer. As a TV host for Ritmo de la Noche. It was like a happening talk show at night, at midnight, on Univision. In that time when I was 19. So whatever that was, I guess that was probably early 2000s or late 1990s. And then when I came home, so after we had the celebratory dinner with my agent, after the dinner, he said, okay, here's a contract, and there's one condition to you signing. And I said, okay, what? And I'm 19 years old, and I'm in Mexico City and alone. I have my apartment there, and I'm going back and forth traveling from Mexico City I was living in Fresno, California at the time. And he says, I want us to have a relationship. Now, this guy is not only married, he's double my age. He has daughters my age. And I thought I was, friends with the whole family. And I just remember at that time feeling completely violated and very discouraged and hopeless. And that paired with my very colorful and eventful childhood of growing up, in a home where my mother could be arrested and thrown in prison at any time. That was pretty much my life. I became aware of it at probably 7 years old until I would leave the house. I was very aware that it was what triggered me to go into business when I was 12. So when that happened at 19, it just quadruply ingrained in me that if I had my own business, I just had so much more freedom in controlling my own destiny. And so, so it was, that was definitely another turning point for me on just reminding me how much I loved business, how much more control I had over my life going into business. And so I have I'm 47 years old now. I have literally had one brief job in my life. And that was when I was like 18 years old. I worked briefly in a hospital in the ER department. I was their Spanish-speaking admitting registrar. Other than that, and that was kind of me testing the waters to see if maybe I wanted to go to nursing school. That was why I took that job. Other than that, I have owned businesses since I was 12 years old until now. And learned so much along the way. I love the game of business. Not that it's always fun, but I love it.
I love the game too. And I love your story. It's always so inspirational to hear. I've heard bits and pieces of it, but not all of it. And I always love the extra detail that you're sharing now. And I think something really interesting, I mean, there's so many lessons and interesting questions I have to follow up to what you shared. And I think the first is really, you said you've been in business since you were 12, and my story is very similar. And I wonder about this nature versus nurture thing. I'd love your opinion on it, because I've heard this about a lot of entrepreneurs where since we were 12, like me and you, where we're we've had entrepreneurial ventures. And do you think that that's something that's innate in people with this fire, or is it something that can be learned?
Gosh, I guess for me, I think it was definitely, I'd love to believe it was something in me that I couldn't turn off whether I wanted it to or not, that there's something cool about that. However, I have to definitely absolutely give my environment credit. My mother was a businesswoman, although it was an illegal business, she was still definitely a smart businesswoman. And I saw the freedom, the independence that she created for herself in that. I'd love to believe that I had this fire in me that I wasn't going to turn off, but for sure my environment played a huge role and I talk to my boys about this too. We talk about this all the time. One is 13, one is 16. My 16-year-old is starting to look at colleges and majors, and his father's also an entrepreneur, and he definitely speaks this language of wanting to go into business. In fact, he's this weekend and next weekend loading up his OfferUp page, and he's, calculating the math, and he's like, yeah, I think I need to get this OfferUp page going because that would be a lot better use of my time than getting an hourly wage job.
Yeah, I agree on the environment part though, because I was like, EO actually helped me realize this, which is like, because someone had asked me, I was like, I think I was one of the youngest people in the room, if not the youngest, and they're like, how are you in this room at your age, right? I joined EO when I was 33, and I was like, I think it's because I had to think about it, like what fueled, they were kind of like more like what fueled your drive, like to work this hard at that age. And I was like, my dad cheated on my mom when I was 15. And ever since then, I was like, I never want, I don't want my mom to be in a position where she is with a man, my dad, because of financial security. And number two, I never want to be in that position where I have to rely on a man for financial security. And so that lit the fire under my ass. So it's like, I'm so grateful for my dad cheating. It sounds weird, but like, I'm so grateful that he did that, because that's what made me focus on business and career over boys. Like most teenagers were like boy crazy. And I was like, F that. Like, I care about my business and career. I don't give a shit like about that, right? And so I realized that it's a blessing sometimes when we don't realize it at the time, but those traumas that we go through are ultimately like blessings on our journey of life. So I agree with you on this, like that I do think the environment. So yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think also,
it's
yeah,
it's those blessings, but it's also like our outlook, right? The outlook that is required of anyone going into business. You need to have that positive outlook where you see challenges and you can spot out the opportunities. I think that's also definitely a skill set of any entrepreneur.
I think so too. I always say it's either a blessing or a lesson. And even the lessons are blessings
100%.
ultimately. So I know you and are big on mindset, and I definitely agree. Like, the mindset is a major foundation to success as an entrepreneur. And it's all about nurturing and cultivating that growth mindset, which is why we're both part of EO. And I've learned so much from you in like the short time we've been in Forum together. So thank you so much. And something else that you mentioned that I really, I was like, I love it. I love our Forum. But something else that you mentioned that I really want to like touch on is also how you mentioned that you were having so much fun in business, which is why you didn't go back to law school. And I think that's so important too, where people don't realize, like, as entrepreneurs, like, business is fun to us. And I think, and how you said it's like a game, and I say the same, like, I have all this Monopoly stuff. As you know, I'm in real estate. And so one of my analogies for life is like, I was like, life is like a game of Monopoly. I'm just collecting properties until I get my hotel. And so I love like what you said, it's like a game and it's about having fun. And I think that's also an important story and lesson to share with newer entrepreneurs, that yes, we work hard, but also you can have fun with it. You can do something that you love and enjoy and you're passionate about. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like sometimes like work doesn't feel like work to me, where I'm like, I can work 10 hours a day, but it's like so much fun. I'm like, I'd rather be doing this than like watching Netflix or something. Right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you really get to create and curate your life and your organization and your team and the people you work with, the clients you work with. I mean, and of course, it's a lot of work, right? I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it. For sure, it's a lot of work. But like everything, the skill sets are built up over time. I'm super lucky. I got started in business at 12 years old. That has served me beautifully. And at the same time, I still am growing and learning humbly every single day. But it's fun. And it's also, with the stress and liability and all of those big kind of questions out there with business as we're running the game. a couple things that help me is remembering to stay present, like just remembering to stay present in this moment, right? I'm healthy, my family's healthy, life is good, right? And make sure that I'm carving out those fun times where I'm able to connect and I'm able to travel and I'm able to recharge. And also too, like our brain doesn't know the difference from us experiencing joy versus us providing an experience for someone else to experience joy, right? So now we're talking about like giving back and philanthropy. How much more of that is able to happen as entrepreneurs than if I was working a 9 to 5, salary wage job? It's just my resources are so much more limited. And so when I talk of fun, I don't just talk about the travel and, going and telling my boys, hey, on a Monday, let's skip school and I'm not going to work today and let's go play at laser tag. Not just those fun things, but also the fun of just like helping others and, serving those, not just in as our leadership role, as we're constantly serving our teams, but serving others in so many other ways. I mean, there's just, again, back to your outlook, right? Back to our mindset, back to the outlet, back to to be able to sniff out opportunities and then seizing those opportunities.
Yes. I agree with that so much. I'm a big believer in like, there's the concept, it's called like servant leadership, right? And I think the best leaders I have witnessed and I've met have embraced that concept. You're a prime example of that. And I just learned that really in the past 2 years, honestly, through EO largely. And servant leadership is about that. It's like, the best leaders are focused on serving our team, serving our clients, serving our customers, serving our community. And really, it's not about us. And I actually just spoke at an event this weekend, and that was my message. They were like, can you speak about personal and professional development and becoming your best self? And I was like, becoming your best self means shifting from selfish to selfless, shifting from self-interest to serving, shifting for your mindset from just all about me and myself again to how can I solve problems? How can I be solution oriented? And how can I add value for people? And I was like, that's a shift that gets you to your best self. That's a shift that helps you not just survive, but thrive in business. So I'm a big believer in that as well. And as you know, I launched my nonprofit this year because of that. And it's called Female Founders Foundation. And the whole purpose of it is to help women achieve this financial freedom and achieve the, what we have, and basically have all the joys of entrepreneurship, which I think a big part of that is paying it forward. And I don't know if you've read it, but there's a great book called The Go-Giver. The Go-Giver is a prime example of that, and I've experienced that. Yeah. I feel like you already live it, and me too. I learned about the book after, so like kind of a friend of mine was like, have you read this book? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, you embody like everything that this book explains, like the Go-Giver concept. And I was like, oh, thank you, I guess. I was like, I didn't know about it, but I'll read it. And I read the Spark Notes version, honestly, but it's really interesting. But it's basically like that. It's that the most successful people in business and in life are the givers. When you focus on giving, that's when, the universe gives back to you tenfold. And whatever it is, the higher power that you believe in, but it gives back. And I also love what you talked about staying present, because I know you have, and I think that's the other part about like giving, but also gratitude. And you're great about that. And I know you have like a great gratitude practice that you've shared. And I love if you could share like a little bit about your gratitude and your morning routine, because I think that's something a lot of entrepreneurs wonder about, like morning routine, gratitude practice. Like, what are the specific tools and tactics you utilize that have helped you?
Yeah, definitely. It has been also a journey, right, of developing my morning routine. But today I would say it's, I try to get up early. I try to go to bed late. I try to limit caffeine, alcohol, and sugars in my life. And just those three things eliminated kind of help to flourish my morning routine. And so I try to get up early by 5 a.m. The goal is to get that morning workout in before I wake up my boys, and I get to do the breakfast routine with them and get them off to school. Obviously, before I hit the gym, it's prayer, it's meditation, and it's reading. That's my minimal thing that I try to do before I even get out of bed, before I pick up my phone, is prayer, meditation, and reading. And the book that I'm reading is a leadership book currently right now, is a leadership book by John Maxwell. It's just an easy daily read on leadership. He's very big on servant leadership, of course. Yeah. And at other times, my morning routine gets longer, with adding in, 2 liters of hot water before I have anything else in my mouth. I've kind of added to my morning routine as I go, but right now it's a little more simplified. I have a early call time in the morning at 6 a.m. breakfast for my boys. So I try to get my morning routine done by 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
How about yours? What is your morning routine?
5 a.m.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've fallen off the wagon. I used to have one. I used to do hot yoga and hot Pilates and meditate in the morning, but it's ever since the holidays. So it's been like 3 months of like falling off for me. It's been crazy, and I know I need to get back to it because I feel it.
Yeah, close enough for you to get back on. 3 months is close enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, recently it's not been the greatest. Exactly. Yeah, but I mean, I was doing the kind of like either a gratitude journal or like just meditation in the morning, and then hot yoga, hot Pilates, and yeah, not anymore. I need to get back on it though. I do. I was like, I've just been working. It's like back in startup mode, as you know. Like I feel like as entrepreneurs, it's we get to this point, we stabilize our business, and then we kind of get bored, and then we stabilize our business. And we're like, let's start a new business. Let's start a new venture. This one's too easy now. And so that's kind of what happened with me, where I was like, this one's too easy. What can I do? Let me start 2 podcasts and launch a nonprofit this year at the same time. And I was like, okay, now I'm back in startup mode. And so it's been kind of crazy with the schedule. So that's but now it's like, it's self-inflicted, but it's an I get to, not I have to. It's I get to do this. I get to host podcasts and share the stories and interview my dear friends and people who are an inspiration to me. And I get to inspire, empower, and educate the next generation of business leaders through both the nonprofit and the podcast and my content. Like, it's a I get to. So yeah, I'm working 12 to 14 hours a day again, but it's a different kind of energy, I feel like, when it's an I get to versus an I have to. It's no longer like survival mode the first time around. Survival mode was like, I have to do this to pay my bills. I have to do this to have food to eat. I have to do this because of my mother, because of what I want for myself. And then now it's I get to do this because I already have everything I want. It's just, I enjoy this. So I think it's different, even though I'm back in startup mode hours. I love it. And it's like, it's energizing as opposed to draining now. And I think that's a really big differentiator, where I realize, like, when you are in your purpose, I feel like, I don't know, it's not like exhausting. Whereas where I was like working and just grinding, it was very stressful. So it was a very different kind of like environment then. And I think that's something important to think about, because I was like, something I've been saying often is, when you go into business to solve problems, you make money. When you go into business to make money, you get problems. And I think earlier on, I chased the money more than the purpose. And that's why I was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
sure.
I was like,
so
I'd love for you. And I know you just shared a book. Yes, it is.
So much you're exhausting,
it
right?
Is. And I think it's
our purpose is money motivated. But
yeah.
Hey, I was there too.
Yes.
Totally was there too.
Yeah, we all were. I think we all start there. We all start in survival mode, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly normal. I think it's just like the path you go on as an entrepreneur. But I say it's like this. It's like you have to move this boulder in your life, I say. And in the beginning, you are pushing it up the hill. And then you go like, wait, if I have to move this boulder, why don't I just push it down the hill and like gravity do the work? And that's when you get to that like precipice, that point of like, okay, up the hill is survival mode. It's the I have to. It's the chasing the money, chasing the profit. And then once you get to that point of financial stability and financial security, then you're like, I can just do this for purpose and service and solving problems. It's so much easier and it just flows. And then you push that boulder down the hill and let gravity do the work for you. And it's what people call that elusive flow state. And it's just amazing. It's like our dear friend Hazel says, is manifesting miracles.
Yes. Yes.
And I love it. And I think it's so true. And something else you mentioned, because I know you said you have this reading. She is. She's such an inspiration. I would love to ask you, though, because I know you mentioned you read in the mornings. So one thing I always say is, like, leaders are readers. So could you share maybe your top 3 or top 5 books that you think all entrepreneurs should read?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I would say, well, a couple of things come to mind. I believe entrepreneurship is the complete embodiment of all parts of us that come to the stage in a leadership role. And we're no longer just serving ourselves and our immediate family, but our communities, right? And our tribe, our teams. And so with that, of course, I think of like Good to Great is a classic, right? Good to Great, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right there with with our emotional intelligence, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, of course, Traction. I love Built to Sell and E-Myth. Those are both great books at just structuring and laying the foundation down for your business. And then thinking of like the whole embodiment, I love Conscious Parenting. It talks about just like being more conscious and aware of our children and who they are and what they're experiencing versus it's kind of like versus talking to them, talking with them. And there's a lot of concepts in there that are easily applicable to all relationships. This one just happens to focus on, from a parenting aspect. But I could go on and on, but those are probably my top 10 books that I would recommend any entrepreneur.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I'll create a list because I think that's a question I get often from newer entrepreneurs who ask me. They're like, well, what books do you recommend? I was like, look, number one, the best way to learn is through experience and action. But you should definitely continuously learn and grow. So I was like, taking that into account. So I always love to ask that question, and I'll actually create a list and link it in the caption of the YouTube video so that people can just click through. I'll put like a Reyna's recommended books list because I know you always have amazing book recommendations. I know you've given me a lot of them, and I've learned, like I said, so much from you in the short time that we've been in forum together. And so you're always a wealth of knowledge. And if you have any others, message them to me and I'll add them to the list actually. So that I'll go create like an Amazon list for people because I think you click through on the caption. Yeah. But I was like, and then I know you have to like head out soon. Yes. I'll message me your list and then I'll create the Amazon list for people because I always link it. And then I know you have to head out soon. So I'd love to like just wrap up a little bit with what is like something that you wished you knew earlier on in your entrepreneur journey. I know we both started pretty young, but with someone who's like brand new, year one in their business, like what are some lessons or words of advice that you're like, if I knew this, 20, 30 years ago, I wish, that I would be much further along than I am now, right? I call it condensing decades into days by just sharing our experiences and our knowledge, just like EO, right? So whatever you have for us.
Yeah, I would say for me, what comes to mind, one of my biggest lessons that I wish I learned earlier that I think I still in many ways struggle with today is just reaching out for and asking for help, whether that's a coach or a mentor. It doesn't matter what kind of help you need. I could remember when I was early on, I used to have a friend, and I'm talking like I was a teenager, and I remember he said, well, why don't you just ask? It's free to ask. Asking is free. All they could say is no. And it was a joke. He would always, anytime we talk about something, he's like, well, ask. It's free to ask. And it was just like a joke between us. But there was so much wisdom in that, because today I still struggle with asking for help. And I think it's really just, some of the coping mechanisms that I learned as a child of, my parent, again, the colorful background, the instability. I learned to put my head down and solve problems quickly on my own. And I became very self-sufficient and fiercely independent. And while that has served me very well, there's always trade-offs in everything. The trade-off has been today, and even when I was younger, it's difficult for me to ask for help. And today, where I could see that that would serve me better and would have served me better as an early entrepreneur, is ask for help, whether that's mentors, whether that's coaches, whether that's find someone who's done what you've done, find someone who's where you want to be. Find that person that you look up to, that you aspire to be like, and ask for help. All they could say is no. But you might along the way find great mentorship, coaches, friendships along the way just by asking. And I wish that I would have incorporated that into my life a lot sooner.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And at the chapter retreat, there was actually a great speaker that spoke about that. And he called the concept, he said, alone we are limited and together we are limitless. And we're always strongest when we ask for help and collaborate and seek the help and guidance of others. And sorry, I'm the same way. Like, I think I was like, when I spoke this weekend at the event, I was like, they asked, what was this? I think the question was along the lines of like, what was one of the biggest mistakes you made in business? And I was like, one of my biggest mistakes was, if you want something done right, do it yourself. But then I realized, that's a limiting belief. And actually, the best way is to collaborate and work with others. And that's how you get ahead in life. So it's not true. It's a limiting belief. If you were told if you want something done right, do it yourself. You need to collaborate, find partnerships, find teams, and understand that together we are limitless and alone we are limited. So thank you all for making time to connect with us, and thank you to Reyna for making time. We'll catch you on next week's episode. Please be sure to comment if you have any questions, and I can do a follow-up with Reyna and answer those questions for you, because she has such a wealth of knowledge, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, but she has to run to another meeting, so I didn't want to keep her past her time. And also, I will be sure to link her favorite and recommended books, because I have learned so much from her, like I mentioned, and she always recommends the best books. So I'll make a separate list on my Amazon storefront just for Reyna's recommended books. See you next time.